The sky over Laconia is still dark when the first flame appears. It flickers against stone, against bronze, against the silent faces of men who have trained for this moment their entire lives. The Tagetes mountains rise like black walls. The air is cold, not a single shield moves. Not a single spear scrapes the ground. Thousands of feet could shake this valley. But they don't, because Sparta does not move at the sound of a command. Sparta moves at the will of the gods. Before the march, before the phalanx locks into place, before the clash that will decide who lives and who vanishes into history, there is blood on stone, smoke in the air, a priest watching the sky. This is the part no one talks about. The part that happened before the war began. We imagine Sparta as pure steel, men shaped by the agoge into living weapons, trained to endure pain without flinching. We picture discipline, strategy, brutality, and that image is not wrong. But it is incomplete. Sparta was not simply a military machine. It was a deeply religious society. War was never just declared. It was negotiated with the divine. Located in the fertile valley of Laconia in southern Greece, Sparta stood apart from other Greek city-states. Its citizens were professional warriors, supported by the labor of the Helots, a subjugated population that farmed the land. Yet beneath the reputation for austerity and pragmatism lay a culture structured by ritual. Religion organized the calendar, guided politics, and shaped military decisions. Ancient writers such as Herodotus and Xenophon describe sacrificial ceremonies. Archaeological excavations at the sanctuary of Artemis Orthia have uncovered thousands of votive offerings, figurines, inscribed objects, animal remains, evidence that sacred practice was not symbolic decoration, it was foundational. The day of departure begins before sunrise. Soldiers gather near a sacred altar outside the city. Armor gleams faintly in torchlight. Shields reflect fire in dull flashes. But there are no speeches, no shouts of defiance. Only waiting. A sacrificial animal, often a goat or sheep, is led forward. Barley grains are sprinkled upon its head. Water is poured for purification. Hands are washed. Silence spreads through the ranks. Then the blade moves. The animal collapses. Blood spills across stone. But the sacrifice is not about killing. It is about interpretation. The priest kneels carefully and begins to examine the entrails, especially the liver. Greek divination relied on hepatoscopy, the reading of internal organs. A blemish, a strange coloration, an unusual shape. Any irregularity could signal divine disapproval. If the signs are unfavorable, the army does not march. Another animal is brought, and another, no matter how prepared the soldiers are. No matter how urgent the threat, Sparta does not defy the gods. To modern eyes, this may seem like superstition, but in reality, it was psychological architecture. Favorable omens unified belief. Every warrior marched convinced that the campaign was divinely supported. Fear diminished. Cohesion strengthened. Uncertainty dissolved into collective conviction. Ritual created mental alignment before physical confrontation. Sometimes greater confirmation was sought. The oracle at Delphi, dedicated to Apollo, served as the most authoritative prophetic voice in the Greek world. Spartan kings consulted Delphi before major wars. Religious festivals, such as the Carneia, could delay campaigns entirely, even in moments of crisis. Sacred law outweighed urgency. The divine timetable could override strategy. By midday, if the omens were good, preparations intensified. Armor straps were tightened, spearheads sharpened, cloaks adjusted. But the mood remained measured. There was no drunken bravado, no reckless boasting. War was serious, sacred, inevitable only if permitted. The two Spartan kings, who held both political and religious authority, carried sacred fire from the altar. That flame would travel with the army, symbolizing that the gods marched beside them. Religion was not separate from warfare. It was embedded within it. As evening approached, the warriors gathered for their final communal meal. The Syestia. Spartan men ate in fixed mess groups throughout their adult lives. Black broth was served, made of pork, blood, salt, and vinegar. Bread, figs, cheese, diluted wine, simple food. Functional food. This was not indulgence, it was solidarity. The meal reinforced equality. No luxury, no distinction. Only shared endurance. Hymns were sung, often honoring Apollo. Flutes played soft melodies. The same instruments that would later regulate marching rhythm in battle. Music in Sparta was structural. It synchronized bodies. It steadied breathing. It managed emotion. Even art had purpose. After the meal came the final blessing. Sacred fire was preserved. Prayers were spoken. Some soldiers slept lightly, shields within reach. Others stared at the dark sky, perhaps imagining what awaited them. And at the next dawn, only then, did the march begin. Archaeological evidence confirms the scale and consistency of these practices. Animal bones recovered from Spartan sanctuaries indicate repeated sacrificial rituals. Inscriptions credit victories to divine favor. Comparative studies of ancient warfare suggest that ritual consultation was not weakness but strategy, reducing internal doubt. The Spartans may not have possessed advanced military technology by modern standards. Their armor was bronze, their weapons simple. But their social engineering was sophisticated. Ritual unified belief. Communal meals reinforced equality. Sacred symbolism minimized dissent. They understood that war is fought first in the mind. By framing battle as divinely sanctioned, they transformed fear into duty. By insisting on sacred approval, they ensured that no warrior felt alone in the decision to risk death. When the phalanx finally advanced, shields overlapping, spears angled forward in perfect alignment, it was not just a formation of bodies. It was a formation of shared conviction. Today, we often remember Sparta for violence, for Thermopylae, for the image of 300 warriors standing against impossible odds. But before that stand, there was smoke rising quietly into the morning sky. Before the shout, there was silence. Before steel struck steel, there was a priest searching for meaning in the pale light of dawn. The secret rituals were not weakness. They were structure. They were emotional calibration. They were the invisible architecture behind visible strength. Sparta did not march because it was fearless. It marched because it believed. And belief, carefully constructed, collectively reinforced, ritually renewed, was its most powerful weapon. Power is not built only with weapons. It is built with symbols, with shared stories, with ceremonies that transform uncertainty into unity. The next time you hear about Spartan warriors marching into battle, remember what came before the march. Remember the flame, the silence, the waiting. History is not only written in battles, it is shaped in the quiet rituals that prepare them. And if you are fascinated by these hidden layers of ancient life, the forgotten mornings before legendary events, make sure to subscribe. Because here, we don't just revisit famous wars. We step inside the unseen foundations that made them possible. We uncover the human decisions behind historical myths. We explore the rituals, beliefs, and structures that shaped civilizations. If this story changed the way you see Sparta, leave a comment below. And tell me what surprised you most. And thank you for walking through ancient dawn with me.